So, what happens when an entire nation is on its knees facing odds that seem, well, impossible? Today, we're going to unpack a timeless story about a people who have lost everything, an unlikely king nobody wanted, and a young shepherd who would change history with nothing more than a single stone and a whole lot of faith.
A nation whose chests were full of wounds, whose eyes had only seen humiliation. Just let those words sink in for a second. This is how the people of Bani Israel are described. Think about that. Once they were this favored nation, and now they were completely broken, praying for help, but too scared to even think about raising a sword. To really get their incredible victory, we first have to understand just how deep their suffering went.
In this whole story, it kicks off with oppression. But listen, this wasn't just losing a battle here and there. No, this was a complete collapse of their society, a loss of who they even were, and this constant grinding fear that was part of their everyday life. I mean, the reality they were living was just brutal. Their enemies would just roll into their cities whenever they wanted, burn down their homes, and murder their sons. They were kicked out of their own lands, scattered everywhere, and even started fighting among themselves. Every single battle was another defeat. As one source puts it, they had become slaves in their own land. It's from this absolute rock bottom that they finally came together. They went to their prophet Samuel and they made a plea. Appoint a king for us. We need a leader, someone who can unite us, someone who can lead us to fight in the way of God. This was it. This was their turning point, a desperate cry for someone to bring them together. But here's the thing. The answer they got, well, it was not at all what they were expecting, not even close. They asked for a symbol of power and strength that they could see, but the answer they received was going to challenge everything they thought a leader was supposed to be. And that answer came in the form of a man named Jaloot, or as you might know him, Saul. He wasn't some famous general or a wealthy prince from a royal family. Actually, the sources tell us Jaloot came from a really poor family. This was God's choice for a king. And right away, this created a huge problem. The people actually protested. They were like, wait, how can he be king over us? He's got no money, no royal status. You see, they were judging leadership by things you can count: money, family name. But God's criteria? Totally different. Jaloot was chosen because he was physically powerful and, even more important, he had a deep well of knowledge and wisdom. And this verse, right here, it cuts right to the heart of it all. Leadership isn't decided by our standards of wealth or who your parents are. It says Allah gives sovereignty to whom he wills. And in this case, he gave it to a man whose real strength was his courage to stand up against injustice. So Jaloot manages to unite the people. He reminds them that real honor doesn't come from swords and shields, but from being obedient to God. But before they could ever face their enemy on the battlefield, this brand new army had to face a test of its own, a test of their discipline, their obedience, and their faith. Just try to picture this, right? You're in an army, you're exhausted, you've been marching through a hot desert for who knows how long. Your throat is completely dry, and then you see it, a river, gleaming in the sun. It looks like salvation, it looks like life itself. But it's also where they'll be tested. Just as they're all about to stampede towards the water, Jaloot gives the divine command: Allah will test you with this river. Whoever drinks his fill from it is not with me, except for the one who takes just a single scoop in his hand. The order was crystal clear, and it was tough. This wasn't really about thirst, it was about self-control. It was about proving you could follow an order no matter what. And the results? Whoa, it was absolutely staggering. The huge majority of the army failed. Thousands of soldiers just rushed to the river and drank as much as they wanted, choosing that instant comfort over obedience. And suddenly, all that was left was this small, disciplined group of just 313 men. A tiny number, but their faith? It was massive. So now, this tiny group has to go up against the enemy's greatest weapon, their champion, a giant named Jaloot, or Goliath. But from the believer's side, another equally unexpected hero was about to step onto the battlefield. I mean, the contrast here couldn't be more extreme. On one side, you have Jaloot, a walking mountain of iron, a giant so feared that entire armies trembled when he walked. And on the other side, Dawud, a young, unknown shepherd armed with a slingshot. That's it. But see, Dawud had a completely different kind of strength. While he was out protecting his flock of sheep, he had actually faced down a lion. With no sword, he took the lion by its jaw and handled it, using the power God had given him. His courage wasn't forged in battle, it was forged in his complete trust in God. And so the stage was set. The fate of two nations, the future of an entire people. It wasn't going to be decided by two huge armies clashing. Nope, it was all coming down to this one showdown. One stone, one verdict. When Jaloot saw this young boy walking towards him, he just laughed. It was this mix of arrogance and rage. He saw the slingshot and just mocked him, yelling, "Am I a dog that you come to me with a stick?" He didn't see a challenger, he saw an insult.
Now before the fight, King Talut actually offered Dawud his very own armor, but Dawud refused it. He just said, "I do not need this, my Allah is with me." His confidence wasn't in steel plates, but in something so much greater.
Dawud just reaches into his bag and takes out a single smooth stone. He places it in his sling, and in that one moment, you can just imagine, the wind stops, the armies hold their breath. An entire war is resting on this one humble little rock. And then he lets it fly. The stone just spins through the air, straight and true, and it hits Jaloot directly on his forehead. And that mountain of iron, that symbol of arrogance and oppression, he stumbled, and then he just collapsed. The giant was down, felled by a pebble. In the silence that followed, a powerful truth just echoed across that whole battlefield. That amazing victory gave the army of 313 all the courage they needed, and they completely routed the enemy. But the real lesson wasn't about military tactics, it was about the very nature of what strength really is. Dawud's own journey is the perfect picture of this idea. He starts as a humble shepherd, and his only shield is his faith. Then, through one profound act of that faith, he becomes a champion for his people. And because of that humility and his reliance on God, he's lifted up to become both a prophet and a king.
So, what are the big lessons we should take away from this incredible story? First, real victory comes from God's help, not from how big your army is or how good your weapons are. Second, when you humble yourself, God elevates you. The shepherd became the king. And finally, faith, true, sincere faith, is a force so powerful it can topple any mountain of falsehood you can imagine.
You know, this story isn't just for back then, it's for right now. It asks a question to every single one of us. When you're facing an obstacle in your life that seems as big and scary as a mountain, some injustice that seems impossible to beat, what is the simple stone of faith, of courage, of truth that you are going to choose to carry?